although he's too previous to define which the result of the outburst could be and how broad it could distribution. Down there is one dimension how lot expert accept on, the planet seems superior produced rather than always to struggle the outburst. This policy standard at the domestic, provincial, and world standard is devoted to supporting the, Shuchat told of whose answer the year. Besides, this more Democratic Republic of Congo has had Ebola outbreaks up. The is the 9A. The is a severe one in how he's not fair in a village region but has achieved in city region, but down there is more than knowledge in the illness and symptom rather than down there was in Western Africa, Shuchat told. As well, in the 2014-16 outburst, study was fair start to testing Ebola vaccines and narcotic candidates in humans. We now include really nice expertise in one of the vaccines how was proven in the Circle vaccine test in Guinea and was as well proven in big teaching in mountain range Leone and Liberia, and appears to be really efficient and really secure, she told. We don't include license vaccines or drugs still, but we include really promise vaccination and narcotic candidates. We now include toolkit in the 2014-16 outburst. Researchers were in the really previous stages of evolving probable vaccines, and test began just in the definitive days of how outburst. Circle vaccine tool U identification who has Ebola, and U identification the contacts of how man and the contacts of the contacts, and you immunize them in the RVSV vaccination. How is the main distinction among the start of the outburst in Western Africa and which we're vision currently, Fossey told. We had no toolkit later, and by the period we had the vaccination prepared to testing, largest of the cases had burnt of, he told. We now include toolkit. The doses how Merck shipped to who to assist in the present outburst were sacrificed. Representative Pam Isola told Tuesday how the business plans to folder for issuance of permits of the vaccination following year. On the some brush, vaccines aren't so efficient at cure you of a illness if you are already contaminated, he told. Down there are no such a license antivirus medication versus Ebola. Down there are, yet, pilot drugs accessible. The pilot drugs how propose expect pilot Ebola drugs, consisting ZMapp, Favipiravir and GS 5734, are accessible for Congo's Ministry of Public Health to accessing if necessary to consider patients in the present outburst. This Secretary of Public Health of the more Democratic Republic of the Congo has queried availability to how immunoglobulin, Fossey told. We are readily to ensure MAB114 to them, and we are work in the public health authorities in the more Democratic Republic of the Congo and in coordinate in the WHO to define if the is probable. Bamford sharpened out how these pilot drugs are expect for control not just the present outburst but outbreaks to go. We should seek to get antivirals for Ebola license not just to rescue lives but to propose more than to communities who might terror how Ebola is untreatable and would differently not paper their contagion to authorities, he told. Antivirals ensure expect to such contaminated, and maybe ZMapp, Favipiravir and GS 5734 are such medication, but we don't aware still. This just precise distinction how I see among the outburst and the 2014-2016 outburst is the more than strong answer to the outburst how was missing in the springtime of 2014, in the over-introduce of vaccines, therapy and external public health thoroughness workers to help, Ribner told. We are as well partly more than lucky in how the Congo has lived in Ebola. Every new outburst teaches us a new class so they are heavily skilled in how to knob an Ebola outburst, Fossey told. Compared in the 2014-16 outburst, how's a big distinction, since in Western Africa, in mountain range Leone, Liberia and Guinea, how was the at first period how they had always skilled Ebola, he told. For the recent outburst, it was thick felt in retrospective how perhaps the regional, domestic, world answer to the outburst was not as fast and as common as it necessary to include been to hinder the outburst of proper so big, told Klein, a term of the Communicable Diseases Community of America's Social Public Health Board. I believe human beings include scientific of how expertise, how to get an outburst by monitoring, you very include to job rapidly, not just to identification and insulate in Ebola treat centers and consider patients, but later as well do the society coverage job to identification contacts, she told. In answer to the Congo outburst, the U.S. has developed several Ebola experts of the CDC to assist in monitoring efforts, such as screen and trace Ebola cases, Shuchat told. All in all, we aware how we include the toolkit accessible to monitoring outbreaks now and in the next. We aware how we cannot be smug, Bamford told. We yet do not aware all down there is to aware on the Ebola viral infection, and every new outburst teaches us a new class, such as the viral infection capacity to lie inactive in several uncommon patients wherever it may flash up year after, he told. In Ebola, we must wait the sudden